Hi, just wanted to drop in with a quick video about postnatal planning. So postnatal planning is something that I am particularly passionate about. I found that it was something that people hadn't really talked about when I was pregnant, and it was something that hadn't really kind of occurred to me to even think about until after I'd had both of my children, and then kind of thought about it a little bit, and I was like, oh yeah, maybe there were some things that I could have prepared for a little bit better. So I spent a lot of time focusing on doing the hypnobirthing prep. I was writing my birth plan. I was planning antenatal classes, thinking about how I was going to look after my baby when she arrived. So kind of with my first pregnancy, that's what my mind was focused on, and nobody was really talking to me about what you're going to think about how things are going to be during these first kind of 6 weeks after birth. So the postnatal planning, I think there's obviously the initial 6 weeks after birth, which is kind of the major transition into being a mum, but I think it can extend up to about a year after, really, of kind of things that you can plan and prep for to try to make that transition into being a mum as kind of easy as possible for you. So when I talk about postnatal planning, there's a few different areas really that I think can be planned for. The first one really is thinking about visitors. So who's going to visit you once the baby's born? Are you going to want people to visit you in hospital if you have your baby in hospital? Are you going to want to have a couple of weeks to yourself to kind of adjust as a family, for you to get to know your baby, for breastfeeding to get started if that's what you're doing, or to just get used to kind of doing the bottles and feeding your baby, to kind of recover emotionally from the labour? So that's what some people do. They want to just have a bit of time to themselves. Other people want, close family members to come and see the baby as soon as possible, and both equally beneficial. But what you can think about during pregnancy is what you want, how you want those first few days and weeks to be, who you want to be a part of that, and then have those discussions with family members before the baby arrives, so that they know what their expectations are, they know what your wishes are, and you can kind of get any awkward conversations out the way, rather than things happening after the baby's born, when you're probably going to be feeling in quite a vulnerable, tired state. So what another kind of important thing for planning for the postnatal is thinking, if you do have a partner, thinking about how things might change in your relationship. So things you can do together during pregnancy is talk about what your expectations are of when the baby arrives, how you think you may need to support one another, also what your expectations of each other are in relation to care for the baby, who's going to be doing what can your partner do to support you. I think if people are breastfeeding, then sometimes partners feel like they're a little bit on the outside, like they're a little bit of a spare part. They don't really understand what their role is. So I think planning during pregnancy, for that, kind of thinking about what you're going to need for breastfeeding, and letting your partner become aware of what they can do to support that relationship as well. Getting you drinks, getting you food, making sure that you're comfortable. So basically just looking after you. And I think with me, I didn't really grasp the concept of how much I was basically going to have to be sitting on my arse breastfeeding for hours and hours on end, and that once I got settled and once I got my daughter attached, I couldn't get up and just get myself a glass of water, and I found it quite difficult to be asking my husband all the time, can you go and do this for me, can you go and do that for me, can you pick this up for me, can you do that? And he was joking, basically said every time his arse hit the sofa he was back up again having to do something for me. So I had just given birth and I was feeding a tiny baby, so I feel like I was entitled to be asking for some extra help and some biscuits and some water. So yeah, that's to be expected. But I think sometimes with partners, these are things that can be discussed during pregnancy, so you've both got a bit of an understanding about what's going to happen and what your expectations about that are, and kind of how your partner can feel like they can be as involved in that aspect of it. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be just focused on breastfeeding, but kind of what they can do to support you and to help you with your recovery postnatally. I think also with the planning, what's quite important is thinking about who is in your network. So that's something you can definitely think about during pregnancy. Who can support you physically when you've just had the baby? Are there people that can bring you meals? Are there people that can come and help you clean the house? Are there people that can come and hold the baby while you have a shower or you have a nap? Who is there to support you, and what are they going to do? Also kind of emotionally as well, if things are difficult, if you're sleep deprived, if you're having problems with the baby kind of just crying all the time, everyone has time where they're kind of at the end of their tether and just need some support and someone to listen to them. Have you got that? Who is going to be able to do that? Have you got like a group of mums you can set up a WhatsApp group with? Have you got family members, friends who'll be there on the end of the phone? So just kind of having discussions and conversations with your nearest and dearest about who can kind of provide that support to you once the baby arrives. It's good to have a bit of a plan and a bit of an idea about who you've got in mind for that. I think also what you can plan for, and what really is essential to plan for, is and this is kind of the main thing that got me started on this journey of thinking about how can people plan better for the postnatal, is about emotional well-being, and about thinking about what you're going to need as a new mum to help you get through those first few weeks and months. Thinking about how self-care and what you do to look after yourself, what kind of things you enjoy doing now. So it could just be things like, I don't know, taking a bath, reading a book, going out for a walk, listening to a podcast, having coffee or hot chocolate, something really, really small. Could be anything. Having a conversation with a friend, having a conversation with a family member, things that you like doing now before the baby arrives, that you could probably catch a few minutes easily after the baby's here, that will just kind of rejuvenate you, refresh you, make you feel a little bit better about yourself if you're having a rubbish day, and just help you to kind of reconnect with you as a woman, as a person, rather than just feeling like you are a mum to this tiny, needy little baby, who you will be kind of devoting absolutely majority of your time to. But I think it's good to just kind of have a plan for what you're going to try to do for yourself. Might not always be able to do that every single day, but what you ideally would like to do for yourself on a daily basis, just to remember that you are a human with your own needs, and they need to be attended to, as well as attending to the needs of your tiny little baby that's crying and hungry all the time. So yeah, just kind of thinking about what kind of things could fall into that category of self-care and emotional well-being. Thinking about the emotional well-being side of things as well is, if you have any concerns about postnatal depression, if you had any mental health issues previously in the past, then I know that's something that I was very worried about. I've had depression in the past. I've got a mental health issue, long-term mental health issue, and I was really worried about postnatal depression. And I think if I'd have been, I did have an element of support. My midwife was aware and was kind of like, let's just keep an eye on it. But I think if I'd have known what was available in my area and kind of what support was out there, then that would have made me feel a little bit more comfortable and a bit less anxious about what might happen. I also think kind of, thinking about preventative things of what can prevent people from kind of going down that slope into postnatal depression. Obviously it's an illness, and sometimes it's unavoidable. Majority of the time, I don't know what the percentages are, but sometimes it is avoidable, sometimes it isn't. But there are things that you can do to keep yourself as well as possible, talking to other people on a daily basis, getting out of the house, having a bit of fresh air, feeling as though you are supported yourself by those around you. So kind of all the things that I've been talking about, the plan together as a whole can then feed into the emotional well-being. But I think if it's something that you're particularly worried about, then just being aware of what services are available in your area, whether there are any kind of support groups for mums with mental health issues, whether kind of your GP is your first point of contact, your health visitor is your first point of contact, yeah, or kind of just how it works in your area, just so that you know who you can get in touch with if you are starting to feel a little bit low or a little bit down. So I think planning and prep wise, those are the main areas. I do have a free postnatal planning guide to help you with kind of prompts, and it's got like a little table that you can fill in and make your own postnatal plan for during pregnancy. So I will drop the link of that below, and you can sign up and I will email a copy over to you. But yeah, postnatal planning, I think some of those little individual things that I had talked about, I'll be doing some more in-depth videos about over the next few weeks. But if you've got any questions, any comments, just send me a message, drop me an email and say hi. Okay. All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye.